Hi, my name is David Sloan, and welcome back to the Cameraman Lectures. This is Lecture 16, the last lecture, addressing the whole Cameraman story, including Seasons 1 up through the end of Season 5. Now at last, we come to the question of what was the point of the story. And so to consider that, we have to consider the major ending concept, which was the Acillarum. We learn in the story that the Acillarum is an object, like a capsule, that can exist in the Sheleki, meaning that it exists between the future and the past in a void. And in this unique position outside of time, a person living inside an Acillarum could see virtually any point in time at any place in the universe instantaneously, but that person could not re-enter the flow of time without dying a catastrophic death in a spectacular release of energy. The window box was developed as a proof of concept for the Acillarum. The first Acillarum was the Motherlode, the store of thumb drives that Kevin put into a capsule at the warehouse in Roanoke, and that was pulled forward in time and released years later, blowing a hole in the roof and burning Lacey in the process. Building the Acillarum was the dream and goal of all four of the Wright brothers of time travel. The Palicrum, powerful and useful though it was considered a stepping stone to the Acillarum. Kevin and Omer talked about the concept very early on in their Dura Mountain discussions, which is why the idea of the Acillarum appeared in Kevin's simulation, his VR simulation. Omer dreamed about it, dreamed about the Acillarum, partly because he thought it could get him back to his own planet, and partly because he craved isolation, and so it was a beautiful idea for him. He expected, perhaps based on a promise from Kevin, that someone from the future would pull him into an Acillarum as he dropped from the building, but no one did. Kevin Dane latched onto the idea of the Acillarum because it was a place that would solve his biggest problem, which was how to be with Lacey without the consequences that being with Lacey would have on the world. Had he succeeded in building the Acillarum as he intended to, he would have pulled Lacey into it, and they could have traveled around the universe together for all eternity, and he would never have had to worry about what would happen to other countries and what would happen to the people around him if she were there, because no one else would be around. He didn't finish in time, and he settled for letting Chad and Cherry send he and Lacey off into the universe untethered by Gripsha, never to be seen again. If you were wondering if that killed them, yep, it did. Chad and Cherry also liked the idea of the Acillarum, but were fascinated with the concept more for the scientific reasons of what that proof of concept could entail. Imagine finding a way to have the entire history of the universe at your fingertips. It's a very exciting idea, particularly for scientists who had committed themselves to unraveling the secrets of the universe from beginning to end, but constantly being blocked in having those secrets revealed. For them, the Acillarum represented access to unlimited knowledge, along with the dangers that such knowledge posed in the hands of other people. Which is why they were so nervous about the window box being out in the world. They never did get to acquire that knowledge, as their lives were cut short by Lacey's very stealthy bomb. And that left Milo pulled in to the Acillarum against his will, much like he was pulled into the story of Kevin and the cameraman against his will. He was pulled in to have his life saved by Baker's Palacrum Lab at the very ironically named Sunshine site. Incidentally, actually is a place called Sunshine in Virginia, and anyone who wants to do the cameraman tour on the East Coast, which would also include Baltimore, Roanoke, and Philly, before heading to Colorado Springs by way of Havana, they would have to stop by there. Anyway, Milo was placed in an extremely unpleasant situation. He was rescued from an instant fiery death, which is good, only to be trapped in the Acelerum for all time, with the universe at his fingertips and contact with his old serum buddies at the Sunshine Lab possible, but never again able to touch another person or engage with anybody or be free in the world. He became a great secret for whom there were no secrets or freedom. But Milo struggled with this situation as anyone might. But after thinking about it and having some time to himself, and after hearing Kevin talk about his ultimate goals, he came to the resolution that he would use his situation for a purpose. So how does the Oscillarum concept tie the whole story together? So let's recall the themes established early on in the story. First, right at the beginning, there was the idea of the locksmith and the relics of the past that everyone kept publicly in the shrine or secreted in the box. Milo, Nancy, Kevin, Baker, and Talia all acted in ways that would preserve their shrines, like Milo's dreams and Nancy's competency and resolution and Kevin's shot at world-changing redemption, and hiding their secrets, such as Milo's huck finning of his buddy's dad, and Nancy's lie and betrayals with Lacey, and Talia's ambition and past with Kevin, and Baker's secret deal with Kevin to develop Palacrum technology. The Palacrum threatened all of them in some way, and Lacey demonstrated how damaging the power of the Palacrum could be when abused. In entering the Acelerum, Milo became the ultimate locksmith, able to dash any shrine for any individual or discover any secret box in history. You, the reader, might consider what that would mean for you if Milo were really out there in a capsule floating around, able to see everything, recording you and ready to give your secrets over to people in Sunshine, maybe to reveal them to the world. Imagine the damage that could do, or the good that it could do. We talked a little about this when we first discussed the Palacrum in season 1. The Acelerum could uncover even more than the Palacrum could, given its infinite range, the true history of the universe, the true history of our planet, the history of mankind, of kingdoms, of religion, of conspiracies, of culture, every lie and every truth ever uttered or not uttered, everything revealed except thoughts, which were still out of range. What might you see with that power, if you were given that power? What would you be afraid to see? And what would you hope to see? The idea of the Acelerum forces us to identify and confront the power of the relics of our past, both good and bad, and forces to consider how we feel about them by asking us what we would do to protect them in the state that we perceive them in, or what we would do to others if we had the ability to reveal those things. And that should give us some information about ourselves. The other main theme of the story is Gripcha, the idea that there are forces in our lives that pull us continually towards one thing or another. In entering the Oscillarum, Milo overcame physical Gripcha, entering a weightless environment, and he overcame social Gripcha by disconnecting himself from the world, and therefore severing the line that would connect him to any worldly pursuit. Or did he? Because the desire to connect with people didn't leave him. The Gripcha of human connection is what really tethered him to Earth, pulling him back to interact with the people at the Sunshine Lab, as well as the Gripcha of destiny and purpose. You might wonder how long Milo could keep it up before depression and claustrophobia and boredom set in inside the capsule, and it would be hard to know. Anyone who is stuck inside during the pandemic and communicating only with Zoom might feel a little bit of what Milo felt inside the Acellarum. But thinking about ourselves living in the Acellarum forces us to consider what our true griptures are and how powerful they are and what we would do if we were separated from them. So what is our home, our de nobile, and what is it that we would expect to inevitably encounter, our fatahs? Milo then becomes our entryway into thinking about these two themes, the locksmith and Griptcha, through his experience, just as his perspective was our entry point into the story itself. Now, you may say, as a reader, I read the whole thing and I didn't think about any of that stuff. To which I say, yeah, fine. This is just a work of fiction, and it's not scripture. It was meant to entertain first. And I hope you had fun reading it. But that said, you're welcome to explore these ideas for yourself after the fact, now that I've pointed them out to you. Because a little self-examination is good, whatever prompts it. As for me, you might ask what I learned and what I got out of writing the story. Was I illuminated? Did I come to know myself more through the eyes of Milo? Maybe. Maybe more so in preparing the lectures. But that wasn't the reason why I wrote Cameraman in the first place. My main reason for writing Cameraman in the first place was the same reason a mother pushes a baby out of her. It just needed to come out. My experience writing the story was because once the idea of Cameraman lodged inside me years ago, I felt compelled to get it out. It took a long time, and I had to work a long time and rewrite almost every aspect of the story over and over and over again to realize the thing. And when it was finally done, it was a relief. Mothers aren't self-reflecting when they're in labor. Deep down, a mother might hope that the world will be benefited by this new baby, but getting it out is the goal in the moment. And it is a powerful motivator. And I feel that way about lots of stories now that are inside of me, and maybe you do too, and so you might be able to relate. What I'm saying is that the process for me wasn't so much about learning and reflecting, although I probably did some of that, but it wasn't so much about that so much as it was about consolidation and repackaging of things that I had already thought about or had been taught or that I had encountered in life in the form of a story about some really crazy stuff happening to really interesting people. And that's why I produced these lectures afterwards. These lectures may be seen by 10 people total, but I wanted to take a moment and think back on the story and reflect on what I had produced and then communicate and interpret my experience somewhere and somehow explain what came out of me. And I might as well do that at a podium on YouTube for anyone else curious enough to ask. So, thank you for watching these lectures, and thank you for reading Cameraman. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that all of your griptures in life are good ones. And I invite you one last time to keep your eyes open. You never know what you're going to see. And that's it.